And then some other fun facts. The scene in where he's talking about the airlines, about all the planes crashed. Qantas had never had a jet crash, and every airline edited that scene
Oh,
out when they showed it on the movies, except Qantas. And apparently, Qantas did a marketing campaign with it,
that's awesome.
Of course.
Smart.
and because they were the only airline that did not have a jet crash. However, in the early days, back before when it was propeller, they did have a crash, but apparently, since it wasn't a jet, it was fine.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm an excellent driver.
You know how to drive?
Yeah.
Raymond! You never touch the steering wheel when I'm driving. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Of course, I don't have my underwear.
What?
Them bones gonna walk around. Them bones gonna walk around. Them bones gonna walk around. Now hear the word of the Lord.
You're using Raymond. You're using me. You use everybody.
I'm using Raymond. Raymond, am I using you? Am I using you, Raymond?
Yeah.
Shut up! He is answering a question from a half hour ago.
The nominees for Best Picture are The Accidental Tourist, Lawrence Kasdan, Charles Oken, and Michael Grillo, producers. Dangerous Liaison, Norma Heyman and Hank Moonjean, producers. Mississippi Burning, Frederick Zolo and Robert F. Colesberry, producers. Rain Man, Mark Johnson, producer. And Working Girl, Douglas Wick, producer. And the winner is Rain Man, Mark Johnson, producer.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chicago Cinephiles podcast. I'm your co-host, Daniel. Joining me, as always, is James and Steven. How are we doing today?
Good.
All right.
Hanging in there?
We're not good. We're good.
Heard that. Well, appreciate you guys joining me today, as always. For those of you who are new here, welcome. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. The Chicago Cinephiles podcast is a podcast about Oscars, where we determine if certain movies should have won the year or what should have won instead. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. This week we chose, or we didn't choose, the wheel chose Rain Man, the movie that came out in 1988. So this is obviously the 1989 Oscars. So that being said, this was released December 16th, 1988, starring Tom Cruise as Charles Babbitt and then Dustin Hoffman as Rain Man. Those are two main characters. There were some smaller characters, but those are kind of the two that most people sort of gravitate towards. They had a budget of about 25 million, which that seems to be maybe one of the highest ones we've had so far, especially when you're going from Moonlight to this. That was a big difference. And you wouldn't think it would be a budget. You're like, they just travel across the country. But I mean, I guess that obviously that will add up. But it wasn't like, a immaculate setting and nothing like that. So it was kind of interesting where that came from. But it did gross a lot of money. And just in 88 alone, or 89, it was 175 million basically. I think total did about 400 million once it was all said and done, international and everything. So it's a pretty good hit. It did win several awards. It won Best Picture, Best Director, and then Best Actor and Best Screenplay. So the Best Actor, this could go either way, but actually went Dustin Hoffman actually won it for Best Actor, which we'll discuss later. Should he have got it or should it have been Tom Cruise? They were nominated for several as well. They were nominated for obviously Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, and Best Score. So that's a little bit about the nuts and bolts of the movie. Now we're going to move on to the part everyone would rather listen to, and that's more of the summary of the movie. And I think this is Steven's time to shine. So Steven, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the movie?
I doubt they're all waiting for this. Best.
I am. I am.
Oh, bless your heart. See, he's so good to me. In Rain Man, Charlie Babbitt, a self-centered sports car salesman, learns his estranged father has left a fortune to an autistic, institutionalized older brother, Raymond, who Charlie never knew. Motivated by money, Charlie kidnaps Raymond and takes him on a cross-country road trip, hoping to become Raymond's legal guardian and gain control of the inheritance. However, the journey forces Charlie to confront his own past and to build a relationship with his brother, eventually leading to a change in his perspective and a more meaningful life.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephen. That was
Or,
fantastic.
Mhm.
Okay, so for those of you that are new here, we like to start with kind of what was going on, and we mainly focus on America. But obviously, if there's some major events in the world, we'll announce it. But as I was telling James earlier, this year was pretty rough. It was a lot of natural disasters and a lot of plane crashes, which kind of ironic considering the movie. Rain Man didn't want to get on the flight. So I just want to go over a few things that happened in '88, particularly the Calgary Olympics, which a few of us on this podcast are Olympics fans, so that's exciting for us. A little bit local in August, the first night game at Wrigley Field happened.
Oh, wow.
So we got our first Chicago Cubs night game. Yours truly was born in September of that year, so that's another big thing. Good or bad, I'm not sure. In October, Mikhail Gorbachev became the head of the Soviet Union. We'll hear about him later in a couple of years. Wink, wink. And then one that kind of hit close to home, where I'm originally from in South Carolina, which is that Jim Baker, the televangelist, was indicted on federal charges. And so if you guys are from this area, you would know that. If not, just look it up. Basically, it was not a very good thing situation. I was telling James there was they actually have a religious theme park near about 30 minutes from where I'm from, and like it's abandoned obviously, but we used to go check it out as a kid, and so I don't know if it's even there anymore, but nothing is ever as spooky as an abandoned theme park, especially a Christian theme park. Like, so anyway, that's that. So now what I want to do is I want to take it and move it over to the trivia, because that's what obviously is way more fun than what's going on at with Jim Baker. So Stephen, I know you got some trivia. Why don't you take it away, and then James, why don't you bring us home?
Well, let's see. What did I think was really cool? Basically, Dustin Hoffman spent like a year working with artistic men and their families to understand their complex relationships. He was really a drive in sort of shaping this movie, from what I could see from all the things. He spent a time with a savant named Kim Peek, who was inspiration for the character of Raymond. And apparently Rain Man writer Barry Morrow first met Peek in '86, and on winning an Oscar for the screenplay for this movie in '89, gave his Oscar to Kim Peek.
Wow.
Yeah. And Kaufman had made Kim's father a promise that he would, quote, share Kim with the world. And for 20 years until his death, Kim Peek went all over the world, impressing people with his incredible memory and ability to recall minute details from centuries of history. So I thought that was really cool. Plus, I think that originally in the screenplay, the autistic, or the character of Raymond, was going to be very happy and outgoing, and he was really whoever it was, Hoffman was really sort of the person who pushed to have him be more inverted and sort of thinking about himself, that kind of thing. And apparently Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro, and Mel Gibson turned down the role of Raymond Babbitt.
That's weird.
Which I thought was weird.
Of course, Jack Nicholson did go on to become the Joker, so maybe he was prepared for it. James, I know you had some stuff you want to discuss as well. What you got?
Oh, well, just piggy off Steven. So originally the Moore, the writer, wanted to do a movie about mentally handicapped people. At the term was at the time, and it was based off of William Scatter. Scatter. Sorry.
Wow.
And he was more of a at the time learning disabled. So he wanted the writer Moore wanted to do a movie about like those types of people. So and then Hoffman came in and added a little another layer. So the character of Rain Man is a blend of Kim Peeks and William Stecker, which is cool because William he had a tragic life, like unfortunately a lot of people had back then. But the fun fact about him in 1976, he was awarded Iowa's award for the small town for best person in the town because he worked as a carpenter after he was released from the mental institution. For the feeble-minded is what they called it, which
Wow.
Different time.
Yeah, he was the handicap Iowan of the year in 1976, and he attended a ceremony with Jimmy Carter. It was given recognition in 1979. He would die a few years later, but this individual had such an impression on Paul that he wanted to create. I mean, Monroe wanted to create a character movie with these types. At that time, from my understanding, from what I've learned, is autistic people weren't really in the foreground. Like you were either a doctor or you knew somebody who had it.
Exactly.
So, Kim Peek, on the other hand, he was what is known as a super savant because of how he could just import data and kind of show you like the tricks that he would play. About to go play a clip. We'll when we get back, I'll explain a little bit more about it.
With total photographic memory, he remembers everything he's ever read. He can tell you every city in the United States, its highways and its area codes and its zip codes and its television stations and its counties and when it was made a state. The history of any country, all the rulers and when they served, presidents of this country, when they were born, their wives, their families, all of NASA's accomplishments, when they went up, when they came down, what they're doing. He can talk to you about the Bible. He can quote scriptures. He can tell you anything about it you want to ask him about.
Kim, my birth date is January 31st, 1979.
It was a Wednesday, and this year it's a Saturday. We turned 2044 on a Sunday.
What year did Queen Victoria become Queen?
1837 to 1901.
Kim, if Winston Churchill was alive today, how old would he be?
130.
And what day of the week would his birthday fall on this year?
It would be on a Tuesday, the last day of November.
So what you saw was Kim Peek doing his little trick where you would introduce himself and he would ask you what your birthday was and he would tell you the day you were born, any event that was going on at that time. Like he could recite, he could tell you anything history wise, like when it was like the kings, queens, when they reign, all of that stuff, as you saw in the clip. Like his ability to read was very impressive. It's like on average 8 seconds for him to read, what would take us like a minute or two. Like he could just
and 2 pages at a time, right? Isn't that where I read that somewhere? Yeah.
He would like his 2 eyes and he would just read down. And he would read both sides of the page. So like when Rain Man had that character, so that's kind of where they did a lot because they would just see him because Dustin Hoffman spent some time with him. He Monroe found him also. Apparently he was working as a payroll person for 86 people for the Salt Lake School District. And he would live there. And you know how you said he was doing payroll. That was how he did his day job. What is awesome about him is like, you know how he alluded that he got an Oscar, like one of the people gave him an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that was like the biggest boost of self-confidence for him because after this he would go on these speaking tours and it was apparently it's nicknamed the most beloved Oscar because of the amount of people that he let touch and feel. Wow. And he would just take this Oscar around with him. So,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, if you ever want to learn something and see like just some person recite information like a computer, look up Kim Peek's videos. Like I gave you a little taste of it, but wow, it's great. And then some other fun facts: the scene in where he's talking about the airlines, about all the planes crashed. Qantas had never had a jet crash, and every airline edited that scene out when they showed it on the movies, except Qantas. And apparently Qantas did a marketing campaign with it.
That's awesome.
Of course.
Smart. And because they were the only airline that did not have a jet crash. However, in the early days, back before when it was propeller, they did have a crash, but apparently since it wasn't a jet, it was fine.
Yeah,
but
that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. And then another thing is what Rain Man became was it was a fundraiser for like the studios allowed it to be showed without the normal cut of raising money for like autism awareness at that time because
cool.
at that time autism wasn't really talked about or done.
Not really at all.
Except a couple rare prices. And we could talk about the cultural part of that later, but I just wanted to give you a few fun facts. I love this movie, and that the scene where Hoffman farted in the booth with phone booth.
Yeah.
Apparently that wasn't scripted. They just did it, and that was just completely made up.
Oh, I
love it.
All right, enough trivia. I could probably go on for much longer, but
and the same with the guy, the elderly man that keeps going on and on in the waiting room.
Yeah.
You know, he was just someone that was in that room when they went in, when the crew arrived to film there. And he got talking to like the director, and the director's like, just keep him in and let him keep talking. So that was just spontaneous and not scripted dialogue. He was just,
happy to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about the Pony Express.
And that man was Joe Button. No, I'm kidding. And apparently Hoffman and Cruise didn't think this was going to be a very big movie, and they drove to the studio together to like rehearse their scenes, and they would call the movie Two Schmucks in a Car.
Interesting.
Because I don't think anybody really expected this to do really well.
Yeah, I'm sure not.
No.
Well, thanks for the fun trivia, guys. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So the next one we go over is what was our initial thoughts on the movie. So I was the only one that had never seen this movie. I think Steven hadn't seen it since it came out, right, Steven? Like in the 80s or whatever.
Exactly.
And then James, I'm not sure when you saw it the first time or whatever.
Probably middle school or something.
Yeah. So I'll go first. My expectations on it were pretty low because I listen to a lot of movie podcasts, and I had heard that it was harmful, and so I really thought it was going to be like very stereotypical. And so that was sort of my initial thoughts going into it, was just, I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan either. And so I was like, that's kind of two strikes for me already. Obviously we'll discuss later if I liked it or not, but that was kind of my initial thoughts on it, as a first time viewer. What about you guys as a second time viewer, but maybe just a long time since the first view?
I had remembered that the movie was fun and funny. I didn't know how funny. I'd forgotten how funny it is. Like 97X, bam, the future of rocket, like all that stuff was so funny to me. When he's like grunting and goes in and they're making love, so funny. All of that stuff was played for such a wonderful. It wasn't made to make fun of anybody, but it was just this situational comedy that was so brilliantly funny.
Yeah,
and made you sort of fall in love with Raymond Dahl more.
Yeah. So here's a fun fact. Here's a fun fact about me. Growing up, you know how kids say, "Oh, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer." I wanted to be a professional gambler.
Nice.
So I don't know if that
You're a poker player. You're a poker player.
I don't know if that's the reason why this movie resonates with me so much, but my initial thoughts were like after rewatching after many years, I was like, "Oh, this is such a great movie. I'm so glad I got to watch it again."
No, it was really good. Yeah. So, okay. So now let's move on to what was our favorite character in this movie? Anybody want to go first?
That's a good question.
If not, I can go first. I've got a pretty strong.
You go first. Yeah.
Go first.
For me, it's Susanna. The fact that I really appreciate it when, because all intents and purposes, looking at her, she was probably like the popular girl cheerleader. She's very attractive, obviously. And so, like, usually in movies, the very attractive female or whatever people in general are oftentimes the ones that make fun of people and pick on them and don't think about other people. And, like, why is she with Charles if she's so kind, honestly?
Yeah.
And I felt that she was so caring and considerate of him, of Rain Man. The fact that, like you said, Stephen, when they were making love, that she noticed he was in the room first, and was like, you know, he's your brother, go after him. And then later on, whenever he, has another like spat with him, she's in the tub and she's like, I'm done. Like he's your brother. You need to take, you need to really like, I'm not gonna be a part of this, basically.
No.
And good on her. I mean, she got up and left and gave him the cold shoulder for, however many states it was till she actually answered the call. But to me, I thought she was a very under. I mean, I'm sure everyone's going to say, either Tom Cruise or Dustin Hoffman, but I wanted to kind of give a different perspective. I really liked her character. I thought that she grounded him a lot. I think that she helped push him to see him as his brother and not just as a cha-ching, like a money roll.
I would agree. Yeah, I would say the same thing.
Really?
I mean,
Okay.
I liked Raymond, obviously, but there's something about the character of Susanna. It's just she's just so she accepts what's going on and she tries to make the best of it, and she tries to help those who are in need. She really is sort of an open, beautiful soul. You know, trying to sort of like just you'll notice that I think he says in the movie that, or Burns says that he never lets me touch those things, and yet she's had her hands on his cards or something. Or
Oh yeah.
So he sort of immediately trusts her because she's so accepting, which I love that character very
I like
much.
that. James, what about you?
I was gonna say Raymond, but now you might want to do Susanna. um,
We're very
I don't know.
persuasive.
You can do Raymond. I mean, it's good for the.
I really
it's,
liked. I really liked Raymond. It's such a what Dustin did with it was such good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah.
And at that time, his characters weren't really portrayed like that, so it was a great breakout role for that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
So, do we think that that Dustin Hoffman's portrayal of Rain Man, do we think it helped or hurt the perception of autism in America, or it could be both?
I think. Well, what it seemed to me like, I think when it came out, there was this thought that there was a confusion between autism and the savantism, which Raymond has both, but it's very, very rare. And I think that sort of got mixed up in people's minds. That people thought, oh well, everyone who's autistic also has this savantism, which is not true.
Yeah.
At all. That kind of thing. And that way, it sort of harmed it. But just to bring autism, and people with autism into the public consciousness, I think it was really great.
James, what about you?
I think it did quite help because I do accept your definitions. Like I'm not like when autistic people sometimes introduce themselves. I'm not Rain Man. Like there is that
is
criticism.
true.
That is that criticism of that movie. However, I feel like it brought it to a national stage. It was the first big movie. There's been some other movies that have come out after that, like uh Temple of Grandin.
Brandon, yeah.
That was a great movie. Um, so I think it helped with like it put it in the forefront because at that time, if you didn't know somebody who was autistic, you really didn't know much about it. And this kind of got this set for an American to be more accepting. It got people to be aware of it more. Like these people do exist, even though it's just this one specific narrow field of autism with savantism. Um, it's just that one particular thing. I mean, wouldn't that mean that other movies would be justified, like doing other versions of autism? Like, I just, that one narrow thing. Now, is it Hollywood's fault that they only do this? They usually lean in this one. It's become a trope with this type of character. It's kind of on them for like that. But like, I think overall, the long story short, I think it did help improve it because it gave Americans to know about it. And being aware of it is one of the biggest things that
Absolutely.
causes try to get out there.
It also has to be hard to like. This is more of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but if you have an autistic person who's not high functioning, like what kind of movie is that? You know what I mean? Like it's hard. So of course, like movie people are trying to make money, obviously, and that's just not something that is going to be entertaining. Unfortunately, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're any less of a human or whatever. It's just kind of the money side of Hollywood. They're not going to pick a movie. It's not going to make. It's not going to do anything.
Exactly.
So, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Stephen.
I was going to say, I don't know if this is a part of what we're talking about, but there's a statistic that I haven't really checked up on, but it sounds true to me that after Dustin won his Academy Award for this performance, about half of all Best Actor awards have been awarded to portrayals of characters who are disabled in some way. None of these recipients share their characters' disabilities in real life. So, like the next year, Daniel Day-Lewis won for My Left Foot. So it's just an interesting something that's happened, I would say. Something to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So who do we think deserved the Oscar for Best Actor? Tom Cruise or Dustin Hoffman?
Hoffman. Hands down. Hoffman.
Well, it's funny because I read that Michael Caine has revealed that Tom Cruise's performance in Rain Man is one of his personal favorites of all time he'd ever seen. Because Caine found out apparently late in life that in his adult life that he had a brother who he'd never been told about, who had lived in this mental hospital with a debilitating diagnosis of epilepsy.
Wow.
And he said that, Tom's performance was beautiful. Dustin had the showy part, but Tom had to really sort of navigate, I don't know if I loved Tom's performance over Dustin's, but it's true that it's sort of you sort of fall in love with Raymond much easier. But then again, if you didn't have someone who could go on at least a journey of, okay, well, I see how he's changed, which Tom's performance does, maybe not to a huge extent.
So, Stephen, who are you picking?
Who do I pick? I don't know, Ethel Merman. No, I pick. I don't know. I would still say Dustin. That sounds really bad, but I would say Dustin.
It's Tom Cruise.
For you?
Because Dustin Hoffman had to play one character. He had to play one role. He had to play someone who had autism, which I get. But Tom Cruise had to go from being the hot shot, then to being a little bit of a dick, then kind of coming around, and then being this caring, loving person over time. His arc was, in my opinion, was something that I appreciate. Like, I think that what Dustin did was fantastic. I'm not saying he's not, but he only had to do one character. I really do feel like Tom Cruise had to do 2, maybe 3 characters in this because he had to change how he was when he was, at his day job with the cars, then had to change talking to his dad, then had to be, to me, it was just very, and honestly, I may get canceled for this, but the way that he treated Dustin Hoffman, I know we have all been with an annoying kid. I'm not saying autism is the same thing as being a child, but we have all been with an annoying kid that we're just like, stop asking questions. Stop. we'll have SpongeBob later. Let us, and so obviously I don't agree with the way he handled a lot of the situations, but I can relate. I thought that the level of frustration and anger that Tom Cruise showed in the movie, especially just put yourself in his shoes. You have to go on a cross-country trip with someone who is, I guess high functioning in the words of autism, but not high functioning in our society as a whole.
Yeah.
To me, it's just I really, and maybe this is me getting canceled, I saw myself in Tom Cruise. I really, his reaction, I would have probably felt the same way. What do you mean I've got to walk on the interstate until we got off this interstate? And so for me, I related so much more to him, but that's just me. Again, I appreciate Dustin Hoffman. I think he did a fantastic job. And James, you tell me that he spent a year. That actually made him go up higher on my list, honestly, because his tics were perfect. His sayings were perfect. Like Steven said, he was so funny and he was so his timing was perfect. Kmart 400 or whatever. His timing was perfect. So anyway, I know I probably
sucks.
I probably spent more time on that, but to me, I don't think there's a wrong answer, but I'm going to argue Tom Cruise.
No.
And the fact that he wasn't even nominated for either actor or best supporting,
which is crazy.
Yeah, that says a lot. But then look who else.
Well, maybe you can't have 2 movies. Maybe you can't have 2 Oscar or 2 support or best actor from the same movie. Can you have that nominations?
We've had it for best actress many.
Really? Okay.
Many times.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was just my, I don't think there's a wrong answer, obviously, but I just like to play devil's advocate there and just kind of show the difference.
I will say, this year Tom Cruise was nominated for what was it, a Rizzio or whatever, one of the worst movies.
Razzie.
Razzie, there you go. One of the worst performances ever for whatever. I can't remember what movie he did, but he was nominated for a Razzie.
He just needs to make a movie about himself because that's crazy enough, him being in Scientology and whatnot. But I digress. So Steven brought this up. Go ahead, sorry.
I mean, he looks like he doesn't age. Like, come on,
Yeah.
have you seen the new Top Gun movie?
That's why I'm not a fan of him, because I can't really separate like real life from him, because I just know him as like the crazy guy that jumps on the couch.
I love her. I love her. Okay, we get it. Okay.
Now, Steven brought up a good point earlier, how funny this movie was, and I just want to acknowledge it. This movie had me in stitches, as they say. It was hilarious. Like you said, the scene of them going ooh ooh or whatever, like I was laughing so hard at that. That was such a funny scene.
97X. Bam.
Bam.
The future of rock and roll. 97X. Bam. Like just killed.
And then just randomly he would say, of course, Kmart. And I'm like, I totally forgotten about Kmart, and then he just randomly say it. I'm like, oh, it's just so I thought, like I said, his timing was fantastic.
And the best is the whole, very end. Kmart sucks.
Yeah, at the end, yeah.
The largest, I think, was that the largest retailer at the time?
Probably
Kmart. But no, I love the scene where he went to the wheel and he like just got up and walked away and just like was studying this wheel. So they bet 3,000.
Yeah.
Which also is another fun trivia thing. When they were shooting the casino scenes with Dustin Hoffman, they had to have somebody watch him because he would disappear and go like play cards somewhere. And they stopped production because they couldn't find Hoffman because he went to go gamble.
That's fantastic.
I love it.
Okay, so I think we kind of already touched this, but do you guys think that Tom Cruise's reaction was justified somewhat? I mean, considering that his dad gave this money to, for all intents and purposes, we don't know the story. He obviously, we know he wasn't an illegitimate child, but I felt like they kind of treated him like one. Maybe that was just the times. But I really feel sorry that, he gave him up as soon as the mom died, basically.
Yeah.
And maybe that was maybe that was the decision he thought was best for him.
Well, I mean, I think about that, and I think about, everything that, maybe it's one of those, which came first, the chicken or the egg thing, but, so he had whatever he did that he thought I got mostly A's in his report card. And he says, well, can I drive the car? No. So he took it out anyway, because I deserved it. That's not how parenting works, And so then when he came back, his father and he had that fight or whatever. So then he just leaves. You know what I mean? Like it was like, and then after his father's reaching out to him and calling him, leaving, but he's never responding. So, I think at the end doesn't come.
He says that he doesn't blame him.
I get it. I understand why.
Well, when Tom Cruise realized, like at that hotel scene where they kind of tell the story with the water, and that's how they figure out that, the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his invisible friend. Mm-hmm. Like that was his memory from a small child. Like,
yeah,
I think that was a huge turning point in that movie.
Such a good scene. Such a good scene.
Like, at that time, special needs, the advice was put him in a home, forget about him, and don't speak to him. So I don't know. I thought Tom Cruise, I see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And like he does have the best progression.
Yeah. No, I just something I just want to talk about, because I know he kind of gets, he used him to get the money and stuff, but like a lot of his reactions, I thought a lot of his reactions were genuine. Like I would be very frustrated too with someone having to, go 2 miles an hour on the interstate until we got off the interstate to get the guy in the car. That's just, yeah. As someone who recently, drove 15 hours, I don't want to do that again. I can't imagine driving from Cincinnati to LA on no interstates. Like, that's insane. Okay, so the last segment that we have, guys, before we pick the next movie, is should it have won? Just for reference, we always do the IMDb. Rain Man got an 8.0. The other 4 nominees were The Accidental Tourist, a 6.7. Dangerous Liaisons, a 7.5. Mississippi Burning, 7.8. Working Girl, a 6.8. I'll go ahead and bow out, be the easy one. I have never heard or seen any other movies, so for me, yes, it deserves to win just because I haven't seen it, the other ones.
Mm.
And the fact that I haven't heard of it before makes me think that's not very memorable. Just my thoughts.
The other movies, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, Working Girl was very memorable. I'll just say that. I would
Working
say,
Girl was good.
yeah. I mean, to me, it's a toss up between Rain Man and Dangerous Liaisons. I mean,
Really?
Liaisons,
That's sort of what the experts always say between those two.
I mean, it's such a great film, and with incredible performances. If you've never seen it, please watch it because you'll think, "Oh, this is a period piece." And I'm not going to know it's so much more than a period piece. It is.
That's the Glenn Close one, right?
Glenn Close. Who else is? I'm sorry. Who else is it?
John Malkovich.
John Malkovich. Gosh,
My girl, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Like I probably would like it honestly. I just haven't. I've never heard of it.
It's about these sort of sexual, I'll just say that it's very sexual, but I mean,
my mom won't let me watch it. Sorry,
I forgot. You were born in '88. Let me see. But I would still go after watching Rain Man again, and I've watched Dangerous Liaisons many times. I would go with Rain Man. And there's something beautiful. It. What about you, James?
I mean, Working Girl and Dangerous Liaisons. Yeah, I would say that, but I would 100% go with Rain Man. Like, it's not a competition in my head.
Yeah. I love the score in this movie, too. God, the score was great.
Oh, wasn't it the first score for that guy?
It was
yeah.
Such a great score. Very interesting.
It was Hans Zimmer, you mean?
Yeah, Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, because he's very famous. He's got because he does a lot of things with Christopher Nolan, like he did Interstellar, Inception, that kind of stuff. He's one that does all the Dark Knight. But yeah, no, he's not as good as Mr. Williams, but he's pretty close. Or Danny Elfman. But he's close, in my opinion. Okay, so that being said, I think we all agree it should have won.
Yeah.
Final thoughts where we all liked it clearly, so I think we all agree on that, which is fantastic when we all like it because there's been movies that either one of us like or none of us like or two of us. Very rare where all three of us like, yeah, we like it. Alrighty, so now we're gonna move on to the
we all dread
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune.
And so let me go ahead and pull up my screen real quick.
Oh, and I just want to say one thing. This is the first movie for Bonnie Hunt. She auditioned when she was a nurse here in Chicago and got her first role. She was the waitress where they dropped the toothpick. She's the waitress.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I love Bonnie Hunt, so I have to say that.
Can you tell me? I don't think I know who she is.
She's a Chicago actress. You'd know her if you looked her up.
Okay.
Oh, let's see this. Look at here.
All right. Can everybody see my screen?
You can see it. Oh, you're gonna make it big.
Yeah.
Oh, just take everybody out. Take over. Last week.
Do we have anything? Is there anything that anybody doesn't want? I don't really want anything from I actually want to keep it like in the 90s or 80s. I'm kind of feeling that mood right now.
Anything but Crash.
Anything but Crash.
Real. All right, here we go.
I would agree with you on that one.
And the Oscar goes to.
Oh no.
West Side Story, 1961. Stephen Rejoice.
It's the good West Side Story.
Awesome. Well,
that was the gayest riff who ever lived. I'll just say that.
Both of y'all have seen this. I have seen it a long time ago, but I don't remember much about it.
Yes.
So this will be new. This will be pretty much new to me because I think I watched it in high school, but of course I didn't care about it because I couldn't pretend to. Yeah, you can't like a musical in high school. It's not allowed unless it's High School Musical.
Don't I know it? I hate those.
Well, I couldn't because I was in sports and stuff, so I wasn't.
They're really hard.
Oh.
I was one of the popular kids, unfortunately.
R&B.
Insulting the theater kids.
No, I actually was in theater too. I did drama for a couple years. And I was in ROTC, so I really did it all, honestly. I was like one of those weird people that actually had like friends in all different locations. Instead of friends in low places, it was friends in locations.
Okay.
But yeah, that being said, any final thoughts, fellas, before we close this one out today?
I don't think so. Just lovely movie.
Yeah.
Really lovely
James,
movie.
any final thoughts?
Great movie. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. You'll laugh your ass off.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, I 100% agree. All right, y'all. So next week we have the West Side Story, the 1961 version. Let's clarify it. So we have the West Side Story coming up, but otherwise, this is the Chicago Cinephiles podcast signing out. And you guys have a good night. Thanks for joining.